All right, guys, welcome back. Well, this is actually going to be the first one. So welcome to Men's Health Week as a part of the Man That Can project. Today we got the Italian stallion, Gardel from Gardel Electrical. You can also see he's wearing his trademark shirt, which you can give a cheeky plug at the end. But Sammy, I've invited him on here today because there are a lot of phenomenal blokes a part of this community who all have very powerful stories, I believe, and I think we can all learn from one another. And Sammy, especially running a successful business, has had his ups and downs over the years with various challenges, but also juggling a high-level rugby career, a rugby league for those who don't like rugby, and also juggling family life as well. So wanted to get you on here today to share more about your experience in running a business, how that's affected your life and the stresses that you've had and how you've coped with it, overcome things and any sort of setbacks. So that'll be enough for me. I'll listen to you, man.
All right. So, like I've had a bit of a chat about this already, but what I came to before is when starting out a business, I think one of the most important things, whether you plan on being a sole trader forever or whether you plan on growing your business, getting the right structures in place from the beginning and getting the right advice from the right people, and spending that bit of money at the start to get things like job software, the right accounting packages, a bit of a plan about where to put your money and how to grow the business in a sustainable way is probably one of the most important things that I probably didn't do at the start, and that led to me being really stressed and having to work a lot harder than I needed to. With that stress came about a bit of drinking and gambling and not doing the right things to help the business. So
what was that like for you? Obviously we know it's detrimental to running a business, the drinking and everything that went along with that, but did you find it put you in a bit of a hole at any point in time, or even having employees? How do you feel you were communicating with them, and then was it a good work environment?
So with having your employees see you as a fun guy to be around and whatever else is great, but expecting them to roll up for you every day and put their best foot forward, they're probably not going to do that if they see you as a fun guy that loves getting on the piss with them. So I had to change my way of how my employees perceived me, and the only way to do that was through action. So through making a lot of positive changes, I can already see how that's flowed through to my employees. My office manager Natasha's quit smoking in the last 2 months, mainly due to my nagging, but what my positive reinforcement, helping her with the strategies on how to quit that, and then a couple of my boys have gone for extended stints with no alcohol, and the whole environment around the workplace has really changed, where if you knock off and have a few beers, that's sweet, there's no problem there. It's drilling 12 into you and then going to bed and then waking up useless the next day and then chasing that beer again because you feel like shit all day, which is the hole a lot of business owners end up in, is you are constantly trying to make yourself feel a bit better because you're constantly hungover. So having awareness around that, and then when I didn't drink for 6 weeks, it definitely opened up my eyes as to you can feel a whole lot better when you don't drink too much.
I think that's definitely even relatable though, not only from a business owner's perspective, but even for employees, right? We're all going to have challenging moments, and it's easy to want to turn to a few beers or maybe even recreational drugs or gambling or something like that. But there's also a more empowering and proactive approach or way to respond to that as opposed to doing that, right? And as we were talking about before, one of your sort of vices was having a punt and loving to get on the beers, and it put you in a place where you weren't very happy with yourself and the way that you were acting, but you managed to at some point, and we're talking about seeing Boise's videos, mutual friend Boise, if you're tuning in, a bit of a plug from the Human Connection Project, but how that at that point in time you didn't want to see people making a change, or you didn't want to see people being proactive about how they can deal with these things.
I think, the seeing a cyclist and going, they're a lycra wanker or whatever, that's just yourself hating yourself for not being out there training and working on your own body and whatever else. So seeing when I was 10 schooners deep on a Saturday afternoon and having a punt, and seeing a video on Facebook of blokes doing CrossFit or whatever, I was just like, who are these sort of wankers? And I don't do CrossFit now because my body's no good, but I'm still probably not going to be the one posting those videos on Facebook. But it's all the perception of you don't like the people that are doing things better than what you're doing, and I wasn't doing life very well. So anyone that seemed to be doing it a bit better, you can get a bit resentful towards them, and that just sends you further back down the wrong road of wanting to go against what the other people are preaching through their health speech and things like that.
And even obviously looking at that, like work was one of those things that puts you in that position, right? Because you're working so hard, and we touched on it before, like you were being super busy, and even to a degree you said you're being productive, but the profits weren't there, right? You're taking all this time away from your life and your family and not really reaping the rewards. And I think a lot of men especially feel like we're doing that. We don't get to spend time with our partners, or for those who have kids, or even just doing some of the fun stuff. Like for you, how did you cope with that? Like obviously you touched on feeling resentful towards the people exercising or all that sort of stuff, but what was that like for you, and then how did you go about sort of starting to change that so you didn't allow work to sort of run how you felt?
So with being in your own business, everyone thinks, you just work harder and harder and it'll get better and better. And for me, that was kind of the road I went down. I just worked more and more and started working away from home, which put stress on the home life, and work away from home and working late hours even when I was in Brisbane, and just putting in more and more effort and not really getting the reward because I wasn't doing things right, and I wasn't profitable because I didn't have the right systems in place. And then it just turns into a massive snowball effect of you get stressed out because you don't have the right systems, so then you drink, and then you are hungover, so then you're not as productive, so then you've got to work longer hours, and then you come home tired, so then you drink, and then it just goes round and round and round. So what I mentioned at the start is getting the right systems in place and getting the right people in place. Don't enable someone to work for you just because they've been there before or they've been there for 5 years. If they're useless and they're not serving you and they're not doing the right things by you and your business, and they're not helping give you space, and it's time to just move them on, or put the time and effort into getting them to where you need them to be. In the past, I've enabled some people to work for me that if I had had my right head on my shoulders, there's no way I would have employed them. And I can safely say I'm really happy with every employee I've got now. So that makes a massive difference to my overall mood and how I show up each day as well.
It's probably important to touch on that for those who aren't business owners as well, but employees. Like you touch on rituals and having the right processes for running a business, but it's the same for those who are just showing up to work. And obviously we all have our role that we play, but I'm a big believer in, at the moment everyone's wanting to be their own boss and create that lifestyle, but not everyone, from my experience, is going to be fortunate enough to find what really lights them up and be able to do that on a daily basis. So if that's not you, I think it's important to have the right systems or habits or rituals, or even just planning in place to allow you to obviously go to work and show up as your best self there and get what you're going to work for, but also get the fulfillment in the other areas of your life that's important. Because it's really easy. When I was employed, I just showed up for work, I fucking hated it, and was just going through being resentful at my boss, which was my dad at the time, and doing all these sorts of things, and then I just drink away those shitty feelings at the end of the week. Whereas having the perspective I have now, I'd be like, right, if I was employed and doing that, I'd want to go do my best, get paid, but then I'd do more with my downtime, and improve in other areas of my life.
Feeling undervalued is probably what happens with a lot of employees. But you probably, if you are an employee, you can still make a very good career out of being an employee. And if you're not feeling valued at where you are, then you need to have a look at whether you are actually providing the value that you think you are. So maybe, check in with yourself there and take more responsibility for what you're doing. And if you think you're doing all the right things and you're not in the right environment, then just get out of it, because there's nothing more toxic than working somewhere you don't want to be. Like you just said, with working in a job that he didn't like, but he just did it because it was probably easy, and was working for his old man, and it seemed like the right thing at the time. And then you stay in it, and then you'll get miserable, and then drinking and gambling and drugs and whatever else will come into it, and you'll go a long way backwards.
100%. It's not worth it. So those guys, I've taken a heap away from listening to you share that sort of thing. But obviously one of the main things for having Sammy on here today as a part of Men's Health Week is sort of really understanding your work environment and how it can obviously add value to your life, or it can detract from your quality of life. And it's really, as you touched on, having awareness around whether it does or doesn't add value, and then also being responsible for, are you adding value to it, or are you just sort of sitting there and hoping that something's going to change? And if it isn't necessarily, then get out of there, take ownership, and find a role that's more fulfilling for you.
Yeah, or put systems in place to make it work for you.
Yeah.
Or make changes to make it work. You don't have to throw something away, but definitely work on it.
Be on the front foot. Well, thanks, Sammy, so much for
no worries, Locke.
giving the boys
Thanks
some insight. But if you guys want to chat to Sammy, he's obviously in the group here, but you can also find him at Gardel Electrical.
Yeah,
he'll always be wearing these beautiful shirts, and I think they've got a new design coming out.
There's a few new designs coming out.
We should get you doing a model walk.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at modeling. So, trademark.com, get on it.
Yeah. Thanks, gents.
Cheers.